bosses of the big four banks were grilled today by senators inquiring about the closure of regional branches. They're inquiring as to whether they should mandate banks maintaining regional branches as a condition of having a licence to operate. The Financial Sector Union has said that around 1,600 branches have closed in the last 5 years, with a disproportionate number of those being in regional and rural areas. Now, the banks argue that, well, people aren't using the branches anymore, but they rig the numbers because they only count people who are depositing or withdrawing money. They don't count people who go into the branches to inquire about a loan or for identity purposes and things of that nature. Second, the banks claim that, well, it's very expensive to operate all these branches. In fact, the Commonwealth Bank boss said they spend about $1 billion a year operating all of their branches. He neglected to mention they made $10 billion profit last year. And Westpac gave evidence that they have closed branches despite the fact that they were profitable. So banking is an essential service. The banks are really going to take some convincing to keep regional and rural branches open. I would be supportive of the government saying, if you are going to operate, we're going to mandate you must provide 100%. Services to regional and rural areas. You've got to ask, are the banks following people to online banking, or are the banks forcing people online by continually closing branches?
Yeah, and it's a quid pro quo equation here, because we have a very heavily regulated but also secured banking market in this country, because the federal government understands that if you end up, much like a lot of these banks in the US and Europe, small banks set up all the time, people invest money in them, next thing they fall over. That's not good for the economy. So we've taken a much more closed approach to the banking system in Australia, and rightly so. But part of that understanding is that if we ever find ourselves in serious economic danger, the world economic crisis, global economic crisis in 2007, for instance, the banks are basically secured. The federal government is never going to let the big four banks, and certainly the ones after them, fall over, because that would be an absolute disaster for the country and for the Australian people. And for that security, they ought to give a little bit back to the people who use their services. Imagine providing a service. It's what a bank's meant to do, allowing people to go into a branch if they want to. And even the branches that do exist now, they're all getting rid of cash. We've had stories recently of people going into a bank and talking to a teller and saying, oh, can I deposit some cash, or can I get some cash out? And they go, no, I'll walk around the corner to the ATM. Well, what's the point of having a teller there?
Well, they're getting rid of ATMs as well.
And don't try calling in either. Oh, my gosh. You'll just end up throwing a brick through your own windows. It's absolutely maddening. I don't know about the banks supplying us with security though, Caleb. Everyone knows it's just fiat money. But what I want to know is, what are we paying banking fees for? Because we all do. When you can't even get the basic service of walking in a door, asking a human being a question if you need to. And we know it's often the older generations who need to. I mean, we just had the Treasurer, the Federal Treasurer, come out some months ago being like, I'm getting rid of cheques. That's a big deal for some. Now we've got Macquarie Bank going, we're cashless by next year. OK, it's very clear to see who's running the agenda. And it's what suits them. It's what cuts back on their costs and makes them happy. They couldn't care less about us.